welcome back to the main stage at Demo Day. I now have a very special session for you, one which I'm very looking forward to as well. So I would like to introduce you to Elisa Miller, who is a co-founder and CEO of a company called Pluralytics. Now, you may never have heard of them before, but they're doing something pretty special, and they've got a very unique use case for social data. So, Elisa, welcome to the main stage at Demo Day. Pleasure to have you.
Thank you. We're excited to be here.
No, I'm very excited about this. So I won't take up more of your time. I will pass over to you. But if our audience has any questions, please do put them into the chat and I will come back in at the end. So have a good one, Elisa. I'll see you at the end.
Thank you. All right. Well, it's wonderful to be here, and I'm excited to talk with you about Pluralytics and the importance of the values connection with your social communities and how we can help you see it, cultivate it within our platform, and see success. So I'll explain what makes Pluralytics unique and the deep value that we provide. So here we go. We've created a subscription SaaS platform that's AI-powered social content pre-testing, as well as post-testing for brand voice analytics and KPIs. You can gain a scientific precision from data-centered analysis to understand how the language you choose impacts your social performance. We add an analytics layer to the creative process and workflow to pre-test content for values connection, tone of voice, and style. We can ensure that your content meets brand voice expectations on all platforms every time, and that your messaging consistency can help you reach that ROI that you seek. We also monitor content post-publication on social. Is it on brand? Driving performance, and help you ascertain the values, tone, and style in your language to match patterns of performance and the response that you're getting, and being able to repeat it. So why do we exist? Well, there are a number of meta trends that are coming together that are making what we do possible as well as important. And one of those is that 77% of companies say that they regularly create content that is inconsistent with their brand voice. And this has huge implications. It creates brand confusion. It can even create brand reputational risk. It's content wasteful. And there's less likelihood to build strong relationships with your customers, with your employees, with your prospective employees, and with your investors in our internet and social conversation arena, because all of these stakeholders interact with us, as we know, on our social platforms. In addition, In addition, 76% of customers say that they buy specifically from brands who share and believe and share in the same values as them. And this is really important. We've seen the rise of what we call the values-based consumer, employee, prospective employee, as well as investors. And as we get younger in terms of generations, such as Gen Z, this is pushing well over 80%. So this isn't a nice to have, it's must have. This notion of how you can have that values connection in every single communication. And that's what we help you deliver on. So we are an AI-powered language intelligence solution that ensures messaging consistency and deepens that audience connection. And our superpower is how we use AI to predict how language will connect with someone's values before you publish, and then connect that values connection after you publish to important KPIs and engagement rates and information, so that you can repeat success over and over. So, how does it work? And this matter to you? Well, it works through leading edge AI and NLP that analyzes the three lexical elements of your messaging: values, appeal, tone, and style, to connect with your priority targets, as well as to create that social community that you seek. So our values piece is truly unique to us. It provides language intelligence and insights on language to predict how likely it's to connect with people's underlying values. It's rooted in the universal values behavioral science model. We're very science based here at Pluralytics, as well as it leverages MRI Simmons National Consumer Survey data. And why we use that is it helps us to match nearly any target segment to our values models that our customers may have. Secondly, it has tone of voice. This was developed by Pluralytics based on our customer feedback to analyze text for customer specific tones. This is about your tone palette and what you're trying to convey in every communication. What we do is we analyze on a per sentence basis whether those tones are present, and then we aggregate and score whether that piece of content meets your tone threshold. And finally, we have style. And this looks at brief to complex. We know that we work hard to get less complex. That's what many of our customers tell us. And certainly, this is important on social media so that your message is well received. So, this score helps in alignment with values, tone, and style. Are you on brand, on message? And what is that secret sauce? The interaction between each of these that helps us have incredible and good interactions online that we can then see how people are responding. So we're that ingredient that helps make that happen. What is the best time to use us? Well, lots of the time, all the time, shall we say. Um, First, in daily execution to deliver on excellence and consistency in our social messaging, as well as analytics to find those patterns of success in the language that we're using. It is hard to align our voice and deliver deep connection every day. We like to say that using Pluralytics is like having a behavioral scientist, a computational linguistics, and a copy expert editor just one click away. We're also incredibly helpful when social voice or brand formation or repositioning is happening. Brands are launched or refreshed all the time, and our platform is an excellent resource during that process to roll out and help your communicators stay on brand and deliver high quality content across platforms, obviously including social media. And finally, we're also an excellent resource when you're looking at competitive positioning. The distinctiveness is your asset when you're trying to communicate in a way that connects most authentically to who you're trying to connect with socially to build those relationships. And you can use our platform to evaluate and look at content that your competitors are creating and understand what values, tone, and style is driving their creative. So, um, this is just a brief slide, and I'm just about to go into the platform itself. This is the world with and without Pluralytics. There are many benefits of Pluralytics, but this is just taking a scratch of the surface. One is the world of before is gut instinct and guessing on language, thinking what may or may not work before you're actually putting it onto your social media posts. This can lead to lower conversion and engagement because you do not have the same kind of analytical underpinning to help you. We provide the scientific analysis of language. And what we see is that when you connect and when you connect with people based on that values orientation, tone, and style, and deliver that voice, we see consistently deeper in engagement and conversion. And secondly, one of the things that we find in our platform is that this time wasted that can happen when we have long debates or about the inconsistency of our language or whether this is consistent with our language, this really helps shortcut that process because there's an analytical way to talk about what you're doing, how it's performing or not, in relationship to specific benchmarks that we set up for you that are specific around values, tone, and style. So you know what those guardrails are, and then you can determine whether you're in or outside of them and have that conversation about whether that's a good idea or not based upon the performance and the reaction that you're seeing from your social communities. So, the way to sum this up is know what is working and why. And our language lexical analysis helps you understand not only am I in my voice, but when does it work the best? And what are the qualities of that language that is giving me the best response possible, the best positive response possible, as well as understanding when you're not, what are some of those language patterns to avoid? So, right before I jump into the platform, and I'm going to run some content live. So, I hope you're pulling for me on that one in the demo. Um, what I wanted to give you a heads up on is how a little bit more on the behavioral science, so you know what you're looking at when we go into the demo. And specifically, it is about these values segments. So, what you're looking at here, it's the way to think about it is this is like the 23andMe of values. The universal values model says that we all, and it's been tested in over 50 countries around, that we share about 10 universal values. The question is what is the rank order of those values and what level of priority or weighting do we put on each of them? And we tend to cluster with people who have similar values we do across those 10 universal values. So, what you're looking at here is five major clusters that we have found that exist when it comes to this values model. And this is looking at consumer survey data and other data that we have consolidated using a cluster analysis. And although this is really interesting, and we've seen this in analytics before, various ways of clustering people, what makes this really powerful is what we found out is there is statistically significantly different language that organizations use. So this is about organizational language that organizationals use to communicate with people that fall in these different categories. So I'm going to use a one word example to express this idea, but recognize that almost every word we use can be predictive in this way. So, if I'm a nonprofit and I'm asking someone for money to support my organization, I can ask them to give, to donate, to contribute, to become a member. Each of those words basically means the same thing. But what our platform understands is that there are give people versus donate people. So it's not as if you say give to a donate person, you're going to offend them, but you're also not going to speak to them in a way that really resonates based upon the idea or the meaning that you're trying to get across. So think about our platform when it comes to values is we are looking for those patterns of words that you as an organization are speaking. And your heat map, shall we say, of who you're actually appealing to based upon the word choice that you have falls across these groups. And it helps us understand benchmarks that we set for you for success based on who you're targeting and why. But it also helps us understand what language patterns are existing that is indicative and will drive and does drive performance for you as we analyze response to the content that you're creating on social. So with that, I am going to go over to the demo, and I think Sophie pulls that up for me. Oh, here's the mirror. Ooh. Okay, so I'm going to move over to the Pluralytics platform. So what you're looking at here, and I won't go into all of this because what we're going to do, the fun part is to run the content, some content, and then I'm going to show you the analytics dashboard in particular. So this is my dashboard. I run a lot of content. You can get a sense here. There's a whole bunch of models going on across all different types of content. When I posted it, the benchmark I was scoring against, whether it was aligned or not in the results. But let's just jump in and I'm going to run a piece of content. So I'm going to go to the Score My Text page. And you can see here, this is sort of on the content pre-testing side, right? When I'm creating content for publication and I want to run it against models before that happens to increase my likelihood of success, right? So I'm going to take a couple pieces of content. I'm going to go over here, and this happens to be US Bank's Facebook page. And I'm going to cut and paste this piece of content. So imagine I'm prior to publication running this content to see how it might do and who it would appeal to. So I'm just going to say US Bank demo. And I'm going to pick, these are a whole bunch of different models that we're running. And you see obviously a lot of social here between Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, etc. I'm going to write in Facebook post because that's what it is. Then I'm going to go ahead and pick a benchmark. And remember, benchmarks tend to be are custom to a specific customer. Obviously, US Bank is not our customer, but I'm going to pick one that I think could be of interest to them. So let's just see how this post does against a generic but important Gen Z baseline. So we're going to see how this post about Prince and a mural in the Twin Cities, in Minneapolis here in the US, how that would relate to Gen Z. And then we're going to pick a tone benchmark. And I obviously don't know the exact tones of what US Bank is going for, but my guess is bold, empowering, warm, and lively and informative would be good for them. Now, again, these are pre-selected tone palettes that I have that I can run content against. But again, all of our customers have their own tone palettes that are specific to their brand as a part of our onboarding and simple process. So let's go ahead and press submit. That exciting moment in the demo. So now what's happening is it's calculating thousands of calculations, looking at the words, the phrases, the context, the tones that I selected, as well as that complexity. Okay, so this is interesting. So just to orient you of what you're seeing right now, this chart is showing you in those values segments who you potentially appeal to most based upon the language that you're using. Everything above 100 means that I am more likely to be speaking that language. The red lines are showing you actually what a Gen Z benchmark looks like. So what you want to do, particularly for those things that are meeting or over 100, I want to be in excess of these red lines. And the line chart here, the bullet chart, this is showing me what the actual score of this content is. So this content tends to appeal to global me, which is a group that values self-expression. Interesting, this is about art, right? Values self-expression, self-direction. Also tends to be a group that values things like social justice, environment, alignment in the environment, etc. So when we look at the language of this particular post and the word choice that we're using, it appeals most to global me. Now, when I scroll down here, remember we also picked some tones. So I'm going to underline the tones so that we can see them. Again, this is on that scoring on that per sentence basis. So what this is telling me is this particular post is lively. When we talk about Minneapolis residents and visitors will forever be greeted by this 100-foot mural of Prince painted on ramp A near First Avenue, unveiled last week. There's also a bit of empowering and warm, as well as a bit of bold, because we're talking about leadership from the Ray McKinsey Group for leading this. And then we have the hashtags. And so you can see that this post is 25% bold, 25% warm, and 50% lively. So if these were the tones that they were shooting for, they would be, they would be very excited that they're hitting the mark here. And then you can also see here the brief to complex. So think brief, this is just do it, like from our friends at Nike that we like so much, as well as to complexity of 20, right? And that could be a very in-depth press release with about a scientific innovation with words that have more than 20 characters in them, right? So this is hitting in the middle to brief side. So it's moderate to brief in terms of the language. So now, and then if we go back to the dashboard, you can see here it is and that it's not aligned. And then if I clicked on this little eyeball, it'd take me right back to that page. I'm going to run a second piece of content, and this is from Medtronic. And so I'm going to just take this. This is from a day or two ago. I'm going to go back to the platform. I'm going to say Medtronic demo. I'm going to put in Facebook again. And this time, I'm going to pick a benchmark around achievement and expression, thinking possibly this might be who they might be going for. So let's see if that works. And again, this is a bit more generic, but just trying to get a sense of who that may be appealing to and does it meet the mark. And then in terms of tone, let's take a look here. I'm going to go with confident. Let's see, confident, encouraging, energized, and informative. That sounds kind of Medtronic-y to me. All right, let's put that in here. And then I'm going to go ahead and submit it. Now, again, it's running all of those calculations as we saw before, looking at all of the lexical elements in terms of who it appeals to. Okay, so this is interesting. Oh, wait, hey, so if they were trying to reach people who value achievement, who value being influential, who are concerned with career and moving forward in life, they are succeeding because ladder is quite far above 100. And they are also appealing to that global me crew. Not surprising. We're talking about the environment in particular there in terms of this is sending a strong signal. So very interesting. Now let's go down here. Let's look at confident. Okay, no confident. Some light encouraging. Energized. No other. So by the way, other doesn't mean it's a bad tone. It just means it's not one of the key tones. So this could be like nostalgic or reassuring or provocative or urgent, something like that. And then, informative. So they have informative at the top. So they're about 50% encouraging and about 50% informative. So let's say that I was workshopping this content and it's like, you know what? I want this to have a little bit more bold that is located or is part of this content. So what could I do to it? What could I add to it that would allow this to be more punchy from that standpoint? So let's say I said leading on climate change right now is critically important. All right. And I can update my post. So I'm going to update it. And now it's rerunning all of those calculations to see what happened, both on the values front, tone, and style. Okay, look, so this is really interesting. So this increased the alignment with ladder and global me. Again, not surprising because I've inserted an even stronger leadership kind of statement as a part of it. And I've reinforced the importance of the environment as a part of the conversation and that social post. And so look, we see that global me and ladder increased by at least 30 points. I come down here to the bottom and indeed I made that more bold, right? So now the top is, at least now this piece of content is inclusive of confident. Now I am exhibiting confidence, encouraging, as well as informative. So that's just an example of how as you're creating content, you can use this platform. You can also take a few pieces of your competitors and score them and see how that works as well and where they come out on certain things. So now what I want to do is go to just a brief view of the analytics, but dashboard. Now, what's important to note about this is what this does is through an API connection through Facebook for our customers, we pull in all of your content post-publication. We look at that values alignment, tone alignment, style, and tell you whether you are on or off brand and correlate that to CTR and engagement rates so that you can see based on looking from that filter. But what you can also do is look for what lexical elements are also driving performance for you as well. So we can see here, this happens to be Pluralytics that we're pulling in. We are at about 72% on brand. And interestingly, we've got this thing going on here with off brand with a really high CTR rate in comparison to on brand. So let's figure out what's going on there. Here's all the posts, and I guess I'm looking right now at the past 30 days of what my tone mix is. Okay, look here at the top. This post is failing, but I'm having strong engagement rates. And what is it? Oh, it is the post about me speaking right now. All right, let's see why that's failing. All right, so the good news is that across global me and ladder, which are important to us, we're really over indexing on ladder. But one of the things that's going on here that's fascinating is that the priority tones are not present. And our priority tones that matter to us are bold, down to earth, empowering. Those are what we really strive for. And this particular piece of content is all informative. So again, that's not necessarily a bad thing. We want to make sure nobody's missing this talk that's happening right now. But we did not include a lot of tone in this piece of content, and that might have been a missed opportunity, right? Given how many of you are now here. We're right in the middle on complexity. We fight complexity here at Pluralytics. We work hard on that. And you can see that this is primarily informative and other. So that gives you a sense on that per segment basis, or that per post basis. But again, you can sort by all kinds of different lexical elements to understand where success is coming from. You know, a customer we're working with right now recently determined that they need to be more warm in their messaging. So we actually set up a benchmark for them to determine, are they meaning enough warm as a part of what their performance and what they are as a brand. And interestingly, what this platform showed them is that content that was warm, which is a relatively small amount of the content that they were creating, had far higher CTR rates. So that's the kind of idea of not only the ideals of what I'm shooting for, but then how does that correlate to success or not success, and what are those language patterns? So that's the kind of running live of some of the content and looking at the platform. What I'd like to do now is quickly just go back to the deck to close things out. I think you guys do that for me. Great. Thank you. We just saw it in action. We sure did. Okay, so especially for you, for all attendees, we wanted to offer free month access to Pluralytics and a custom brand voice audit for no fee. And what this allows us to do is to set a parameter for some benchmarking for you to benchmark against. This offers unlimited scoring and seats for this month, and that's a part of our model as it exists anyway. All you have to do is complete a 5-minute survey that allows us to set up those initial lexical elements for you so that it is your platform experience is tailored to you. So thank you very much. I'm really looking forward to questions, and let me know what those are and for the opportunity to speak with you today.
That was fantastic. Thank you so much. We don't have super long time for questions because we do need to get the next session started. But Hendrik has one here that I think that we should address. Can you correlate the text analytic with actual engagement rates or other metrics your content ends up receiving?
Yes, we do that. And the way that we do that right now is through the analytics platform that you just saw. So we hook up your social feeds, run it against our models, and then show the analytics that are important to that platform so that you can see how the relationship between what you create, what your ideal is, and how it is impacting analytics.
Brilliant. We've got another great one here, actually. These are great questions. This one is, understand that language tones dependent as well as dependent on cultural values. For example, along the collectivism versus individualism dimension, does Pluralytics uses tones for various languages or cultural values?
So great question. So aspects like that are actually connected to the word choice. So where that comes in through most is in the values scoring when I talk about who we're appealing to or not appealing to. So some based on the words and the phrases and how you're speaking. So this notion of individualism comes through much stronger in certain value segments than others. Others like gravitate towards universalism, where another might be around self-reliance, right? And my own self-direction, right? And because of that, it's not only that value, but what we found is there is a statistical relationship between that value and the words that are most likely to connect with you based on whatever idea I'm trying to express as an organization.
We need to talk more about this. We definitely need to talk more about this. But please take Elisa up on our offer of that free trial and see what happens. And it's a nice, good way to be able to test to see if this is something that's usable for you, and that if it's missing out of your your current setup as well. So thank you so much for that, and doing it live as well. I mean, you deserve a huge round of applause for the live analysis. I'm so glad you did it, and it all worked out perfectly.
I love it when that happens.
Yeah, me too. But I am now late for the next session, so I'll see everybody in 2 seconds on the main stage for our final demo session. But Lisa, thank you so much. I really, really enjoyed that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for the questions.